Welcome to the August 2nd, 2011 meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have a roll call, please?
Authority members Friedman.
Here.
Manukian.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Quintero.
Here. Now we have your report.
The agenda for the August 2, 2011 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, July 28, 2011 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
What's next?
Approval of minutes.
I move the July 26 minutes of the Housing Authority and the joint City Council and Housing Authority meeting of the same date.
Second.
Okay, the minutes stand approved as submitted. Next, please.
Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
I have one card, Herbert Milano.
Housing Authority Chair Quintero, members of the Housing Authority and city staff, my name is Herbert Milano. From time to time, as I come before you, I have made a request that it is my hope will have some traction one of these years. And that is a request, Mr. Quintero, that the topics that people bring to oral communications to the Housing Authority be placed in the minutes. As you know, I have come to talk to you before many times concerning the quality of life issues and issues concerning the disparity in Parkland, or issues about the lack of funding to support youth programs. But in the minutes, only my name appears there. The usual excuse that I'm being given is that these sessions are recorded anyway, so I can simply go to the library or go online, search through the information, but it's very difficult to find and locate a specific topic. So in case one of the Housing Authority members provided us with a pearl of wisdom that I want to quote, it's very difficult to figure out when he did that. I am particularly interested in looking at some of the actions that we're taking concerning issues about youth and programs that are funded by CDBG. But I find that prior to 2006, it's very difficult to get the videos from back then. And searching through the minutes, where you only find a name and there's no reference to what the topic is, it becomes very difficult. I think that when we research information about actions that took place during these meetings, that it should be made easily and transparent as much as possible. But when you don't place not even a summary of it, it makes it incredibly hard to go back to the date in a particular session when something was discussed. Because that topic, even if there's a follow-up, is not even included in the minutes. There's very little transparency there. And what I find often is that I can usually recollect a council person or a member of the Housing Authority saying something one year that contradicted something on the very same topic that they said a few years earlier. Now, it's not that I'm going to hold people accountable to changing their mind, but sometimes it is so crucial to the concept as to what is the vision and mission of this agency or this particular authority and how do you implement it. And it's nice to be able to go back and trace that information and find it. Obviously, in the past, when I've spoken, let's say before the Glendale Water and Power, they used to record all the information. It's right there in the minutes. So, you know, I don't see a particular legal or any other type of constraint that prevents a government, agency or authority from including a summary. Now, on the documents that we fill out and we turn in, we could actually write the topics to make it a little bit easier for the city clerk, and say, this is the topic of which I'm going to speak. Very simple. And that's sufficient for us to at least be able to guide ourselves and locate the information that is needed. And then we can also use search engines and other tools that are available computer-wise in order to be able to identify the date when something happens. So you figure you got 50, 52 meetings a year in the city council, similar number of the housing authority, a similar number with the redevelopment agency. It really is a very tough job to basically go back and say, wait a second, Mr. Najarian made this claim on this year in 2006 about this. And we may want to come back and, put that in a quote and an analysis that we want to do concerning where the agency is going. See, the problem that I have and that I see in this governmental functions is that there is no strategic plan. There is no long-term vision with specific objectives that are being assigned. From time to time, we get a vision statement created or something put into the environmental impact report, but more chances than not, they're not followed up. The intent of the city council that day or that year or that month is stated, it is documented and put into the environmental impact reports, and then it's forgotten. And I think that's part of the problem. So I figured you could either create a strategic plan and disseminate it and follow up on those objectives, or perhaps this little exercise of just writing down the topic that someone brings up to you. So if this presentation were recorded in the minutes, it will simply say about the speaker, will have my name on it, and next to that is requesting that the topic of oral communications be recorded on the minutes every time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr.
Weaver.
City Attorney, question. I don't know what that had to do with the Housing Authority. That sounded more like something under council oral communications.
Authority member Weaver, because it deals with the business of the Housing Authority, how the meetings are conducted, and how the minutes, it probably was a proper...
I didn't hear relating to housing. I never said a word about housing.
Any other comments? Well, then I'm turning and putting the spotlight on the city clerk. The speaker used the term, I believe, usual excuses in terms of your writing down his...
Authority Chair Quintero and members of the Housing Authority, and I'll also rely on the City Attorney to add to any of my comments, but there's a process and procedure in a representative government of which you are the stewards on the dais to bring items forth on the agendized on the agenda of the Housing Authority to discuss issues pertinent to the city and to the people. Any member of the public is free to approach you and request that you bring something forth in conference with the staff. That item is brought forth. The purpose of the council meeting, the Housing Authority meetings, or any meeting, is to address these issues. And the purpose of our recording of the minutes and making them available via video is to have a record of what transpired in those meetings. But the decision was made a number of years ago to move towards action minutes, which saves a number of hours for the purpose of transcribing verbatim. We do not make editorial decisions as to necessarily what to include and what not to include from the public. A person may put an item down on which they think that they're speaking during oral communications and deviate completely from that which that they have written on the card. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with Mr. Milano's suggestions, but I will say that the video record is there for people to look up. And the purpose of our recording the minutes in the audio-video format and providing the action minutes that accompany them is purely for the historical record of the city, not necessarily to provide statistical information as to how many times a particular person spoke on an item. The actual agendized item come before this body, you bring them here, and they're discussed in the public, according with the Brown Act.
Mr. Najarian.
However, I would like to add to that that any speaker who would wish to contribute written remarks may submit them to the clerk, and they will become a part of the permanent record. I know many times Mr. Milano has his remarks prepared, written, and if those are submitted, then there's no real issue as to whether his comments are adequately summarized, whether they're painted, sugar-coated, or in any way slanted. So, just...
Okay, thank you, Mr. Najarian. All right, what's next?
Next on the business agenda, at 6A is Director of Community Development regarding annual submission of the Section 8 Management Assessment Program CMAP self-certification for fiscal year 2010-11. At 6A1 is motion approving annual submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Starbird.
Yes, I'll turn to Cynthia Williams, staff, for the report.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Quintero, Housing Authority members, and staff. Staff is here today to ask the Housing Authority to authorize the filing of the Section 8 Management Assessments Program certification to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is an annual report that measures performance on the voucher on 14 indicators. 8 of those indicators are self-certified and verified through audits, and the remaining 6 indicators are monitored and verified through the electronic submissions that we submit to HUD on an annual basis. This is our 13th submission to HUD, and we are expected to receive a high-performing agency, earning a total points of 135. Is there any questions?
Questions, Mr. Najarian?
So according to our score, the only category that we're less than perfect in is the number of families enrolled in family self-sufficiency and number of families with FSS
Right.
or savings.
The Family Self-Sufficiency Program, we're not required to administer that program, and we did have a program, and as our participants graduated from the program, we weren't required to fill those positions, and if we did fill them up on our own, we weren't given any credit. So as all our participants graduated, I believe we got 50 slots a few years ago, and as those 50 participants graduated, then we were no longer required to administer an FSS program, and because we're not required to administer one of those programs, we're not eligible to receive those points.
Okay. Mr. Manukian.
This is basically a self-certification, right?
Yes.
And some of that self-certification was certified by the single audit, and the other one was MTCS online. What does the MTCS acronym stand for?
MTCS is a clearinghouse that HUD has. It's a database that we submit our 5058s. That's all the actions that we perform on our families during the year. And so they gather the information on the remaining 6 indicators to make sure that we're accurately administering the program based on those indicators.
Okay, what does it stand for, MTCS? And we've received, on all except for the one, number 14, we've received all the points, so we're giving ourselves A's.
We are
top to bottom, so is there any category other than the 14 that we might have fallen a bit short?
I don't anticipate that we're going to fall short on any of the indicators. There is the report that we pull every month to make sure that we are complying and making sure that we are going to meet those indicators, so it's no surprise when we submit our report. So I do anticipate that we are going to receive the full points that we're eligible for.
Getting 100% all the time just doesn't seem right.
But we do.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mincy.
We've reported for 13 years. Has it always been high-performing, all 13 years?
I'm not quite sure at the very beginning because it was fairly new, so there was a lot of, there was a lot for us to learn as far as the indicators. I know for the past 9 years we have been a high-performing agency.
There are hundreds and hundreds of housing authorities and Section 8 administrators, and I talked to you earlier that I hope to get a report that will tell us how many of all of these agencies actually get a high proficiency report results. And So I'll report back when Cindy gets that for me, because I'd kind of be interested in that.
Yeah, like I told you, we have to contact HUD to see if they're able to provide that information or if if they track it, but I'll certainly look into it and get back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I'll move the item.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Authority members Friedman,
Yes.
Menuchyan,
Yes.
Incy,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Brazian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Chair Quintero.
Yes. Next,
Authority member or staff comments?
are there any comments? I hear none.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Welcome to the August 2nd, 2011 joint meeting of the Glendale